This is Mitch Manager, the best manager that the world has ever seen and ever will see. And this is his twin brother, Scott Manager, who's also the best manager that the world has ever seen. The twist is, Scott Manager has a reputation of 1, whereas Mitch Manager has a perfect reputation of 10,000. I've given them both control of a Vanarama National League North side, with the Scott Manager, the one with no reputation, taking over Spennymoor Town, who are predicted to finish 6th. Whereas Mitch Manager is taking over the National League North side, Darlington, who are Spennymoor Town's rivals. I'm going to test and see if having a perfect reputation is that much more advantageous than having 0 reputation at all when climbing up to the top of the footballing world. I'm going to simulate both of their careers and see how quickly they can reach the top, if they reach it at all. Let's go to the end of the first season and see how they both got on. Okay, it's the end of the first season and Scott Manager is still managing Spennymoor Town. In his milestones, we can see that he actually got promoted via the playoffs, and as you can see here, he actually finished 4th in the league with Spennymoor, with his brother Mitch finishing 2nd with Darlington on 82 points. And if we go to the playoff final, it was actually the brothers pitted against each other, with Spennymoor coming out victors, winning the game 2-1. Moving over to Mitch Manager, we can actually see that he's actually moved to Wickham Wanderers, which is a bit strange. I wonder when he actually moved. So Mitch actually moved in February, which means he wasn't actually managing Darlington when it came to the playoff final. And as we can see, he's actually done very well with them, having them come in 10th place after being predicted to finish 10th. We can see though that when he took over, they were actually in 15th, so he's done a very good job getting them back up to 10th place. Whoa, and after getting Spennymoor Town promoted, we can see that Scott Manager has actually had a massive reputation boost, with his home reputation jumping to 5,000. In terms of Mitch Manager's reputation, it's actually fallen very dramatically for his current reputation to under 5,000, but that's fine because at the end of every season, I'm going to move it back up to maximum reputation, which is 10,000. Let's move to the end of the second season and see how the boys are going then. Okay, and to finish off the second season, it looks like Spennymoor Town have retained Scott Manager. He stayed there for 2 seasons in a row. Having a look at his milestones, it doesn't look like he's done much this season though. And that would be because they have finished in 11th place, which is actually pretty decent for Spennymoor Town, considering that they were predicted to finish in 21st. Moving along to the brother Mitch, it looks like he's also changed jobs again, taking control of Hull City, which are in the championship. Taking a look at how Hull are going, it looks like he's managed to keep them in 17th place. Going to their media prediction, they were predicted to finish in 12th place. Moving back to Scott, you can see that his reputation has taken another jump again, with his current reputation jumping to 4,500. He'll need this very much if he's looking to move on from Spennymoor Town and move up in the world of football. It's safe to say that the first 2 years of this experiment aren't that exciting, so let's move on to the 3rd year and see if any more changes happen. Okay, and finishing the 3rd season, Mitch Manager has stayed put at Hull again, which might be a good thing. Having a look at the milestones, it looks like he didn't really do much this season, so I'm tipping it's just another mid-table finish. And I was right, with Hull finishing in 13th place with 17 wins, 10 draws and 19 losses. It looks like Mitch Manager is just establishing himself as a decent championship level manager at this point. But let's hope in the coming years he can get himself into the Premier League and up the footballing pyramid. Moving over to his brother Scott Manager, it looks like he has also stayed put at Spennymoor Town. Going to his milestones, it looks like nothing else has happened as well. So I'm tipping it's another mid-table finish for Spennymoor as well as it was for Hull. And I was wrong, as Spennymoor actually made the playoffs, which is a huge achievement for a team that only got promoted from the National League North into the National League just a couple of years ago. Taking a look at how Scott Manager's reputation has increased, it looks like his current reputation really hasn't increased, but his home and world reputation have gone up just a little bit. At the moment, Scott and Mitch are stagnating, so I'm going to move ahead 5 years and see what it's like 5 years in the future. Hopefully, they've both made it to the Premier League and started winning some major trophies. Okay, it's been 5 years and I'm going to start with Scott Manager, and it looks like he is the manager of Chester. After having a bit of a break from Spennymoor, I wonder if he left or he was sacked. And no, it looks like he was sacked as the manager of Spennymoor due to the club's poor league position before taking a couple of years off and becoming the manager of Chester. And yes, it looks like they were right as Spennymoor finished 19th after only a few seasons before that, finishing up the table in 7th and making the playoffs. Let's have a look at how Chester are going. Okay, and it looks like he's actually done very well with Chester, putting them into 10th place in the league, let's have a look at when he took over. Okay, as you can see, he took over on the 1st of January here, and he's done very well with them. They're in 19th place and finished the season in 10th. So I think that's a pretty successful half a year for him at Chester. Hopefully he can improve upon that in the coming seasons. For Scott manager as a whole though, it's pretty disappointing. You'd think that the best manager that the world has ever seen with 20 in every attribute would get him up the footballing leagues way quicker than he is currently doing. He's gone up one league since he started and it's been almost 10 years. Hopefully he can improve upon that in the coming seasons because it's getting pretty tiring having his reputation be so low. You'd think he'd be able to get him up and move on to bigger and better things. Alright, and we move to Mitch manager, and holy moly, he's had a mediocre rise as well. His reputation is obviously massive. He's moved on from Hull to Coventry and then to Brentford and then on to Sevilla, which he took over this season, I think. Okay, and it looks like he actually departed Hull as his contract ran out. So he didn't actually get sacked, they just didn't renew his contract, which is a bit strange. But then he was hired as the manager of Coventry not too long after. He only lasted a season and a half with Coventry. Alright, and in that full season that he did have with Coventry, he finished in 5th place, taking them to the league final before losing 2-1. But I can't see the actual game, but they lost 2-1 to Nottingham Forest, which is pretty disappointing. Okay, and he was whisked away to Brentford at the midway point of this season, and Coventry actually got promoted into the Premier League after his departure, which would have been such a crowning achievement for this guy. Getting Coventry promoted back to the Premier League would have been awesome. He was whisked away to Brentford, who unfortunately in that same season got relegated after he took over. They did make the Champions League. Let's have a look at how they did that. Okay, and having a look at his milestones again, but they actually won the Europa League in 2029. If we have a look at the past winners, we can see here they won it in 2028, 2029. They won on penalties to Aston Villa. I can't see it because it was so long ago. I wish I had have stopped the simulation to see this. This would have been very exciting. Okay, and after winning the Europa League and the European South American Club Challenge, he did get them promoted back to the Premier League. They scored 109 points. 96 goals for is just way better than everyone else. Coming back to the milestones, obviously he got whipped up by Sevilla, and let's have a look at how he did this season. He managed to get them into 6th place, which is pretty good. That is Europa League, I'm pretty sure. Okay, I'm going to sim ahead to the end of the 2041 season now. That's going to be 10 years in the future, and hopefully the brothers have made their way into the Champions League and won a few. I'll sim ahead to then, and I'll catch up with you guys then. Okay, we are 10 years into the future. It's 2041, and we're starting off with Scott manager, who, as you can see, is the current manager of Fulham. Let's go have a look at what he's been up to. Alright, as we can see here, he was the manager of Chester for quite a while, actually getting them promoted from the National League into League 2. Let's have a look at how Chester went while he was in charge. So he took over in this season here in 2031 and put them up to the top of the Vanarama National League, finishing 2nd, 3rd, and then finally winning it. Let's go have a look at how they did in the playoffs in these years when they finished 2nd and 3rd. Okay, so the first year when they finished in 2nd, they actually lost the semi-final 2-1 against Dorking, and then the year after they lost in the semi again to Scarborough Athletic 2-1 as well. So pretty disappointing for them. But then the next season they made it up. Let's have a look at what the table looked like during that year. Okay, and Scott did wonders with Chester. They actually finished on 91 points, winning 28 games that year. So that's a very big leap for them, making it into League 2. If we have a look at the seasons he was in League 2, right, their first season in League 2 was in 12th place, but then he actually left. So after that, Chester kind of fell down, finishing in 15th the season after, and then getting relegated in last place the season after that. So Chester were really only good because of Scott manager. Let's look at how he did at the other teams. Alright, this was his first season as the manager of Burton, which is where he transferred to. So Burton, who are currently in League 1. They actually got relegated from League 1 in his very first season. So he could have stayed in League 2, but he had half a season in League 1, and then they came back down into League 2 after Burton got relegated. But the year after that, in 2036, he worked wonders, If we go to 2036-37, he won the championship with Burton on 91 points. So that's 2 championships in 3 years for him. Then he was there for a while longer, I'm pretty sure. So Burton actually finished 11th in his season back into League One, but he left in December, which he then moved on to Nottingham Forest. So they were in the championship that year, 2037-38. Yes, you can see that Nottingham Forest finished 13th that year. Then he stayed there for the next year, where they did even better, finishing in 8th place. Then the season after, he got them promoted as champions, which is just what he does. So we can see he was actually the Sky Bet Championship manager of the season that year that he did get promoted. And then it was on to Fulham last season, which he took over in. They finished 13th. So pretty decent, if I do say so myself. So that was the wrap up of Scott Manager. I just quickly want to talk about his reputation as well, because it's obviously skyrocketed. And wow, 7,900 current reputation, 7,500 world reputation. That's very, very high. He's brought that up a massive amount. Let's go and have a look at how his brother has been going. So when we last checked off, Mitch Manager was the manager of Sevilla. And as you can see down here, he's actually moved on to Newcastle and then on to Liverpool. Let's have a look at how he's done at those clubs. Alrighty, so he was hired as the Newcastle manager in June of 2032. Didn't really do too much except win 2 Carabao Cups for Newcastle, which is extremely good. In the league, they did pretty decent, I think. So he had 3 full seasons at Newcastle, and in the first one they finished 3rd on 75 points. The year after that, 4th place with Newcastle. Man City absolutely ran away with it that year. And then his last season as manager of Newcastle, he took them to 5th place. Pretty decent, if you ask me, as the Newcastle coach. After that, it was on to Liverpool, and the next season he was the manager of Liverpool. They finished in 2nd, just missing out on the title to Man City. But then after that, it is an absolute domination by Mitch Manager, as Liverpool go on to win the Premier League the very next season. And then the season after that, they win it again, and then again. So he won a 3-peat with Liverpool, and in this final season of the 3-peat, they absolutely dominated on 95 points. After that, they did have a bit of a form drop in 5th place. Then in the most recent season, they just missed out on the title by a single point. Mitch Manager is the only manager in this Football Manager universe that has been able to get them close. And he would have had a 4th, but they lost by a point this year. Let's go and have a look at the cups that he did win with them. Okay, wow, he did win a lot of cups with them. He won the Carabao Cup in 2036. The manager of the season. Then he won it again in 2037, as well as the Premier League and the Community Shield, so a treble for them that season. Then he entered the English Hall of Fame, which I'll have a look at in a minute, in 2038, as he won his 2nd consecutive Premier League title. So just a double this year, as he did win the Premier League and the Community Shield. And then after that, it was the 3rd consecutive Premier League title for him, where he didn't win any trophies that year, but just won the Premier League. It's interesting that neither of the managers have made it to the Champions League final or won one yet. Let's take a look at how the Hall of Fame's going. Now, speaking of Hall of Fames, Mitch Manager is currently 3rd for the English nationality in the Hall of Fame on 1,184 points. In terms of the nation, so for the country of England, he is in there as well on 9th place with 956 points. Let's have a look at how his reputation went. I didn't change it while I was simming, but his home reputation and world reputation is still max, and his current is 9,000, but we're going to change that to 10,000. And I'm going to sim ahead again 10 more years into the future in 2051. Let's see how the boys are going then. Alright, so the 10 years has passed and some very, very interesting things have happened. Let's jump into it. We'll start off with Mitch Manager, who when we last checked in was manager of Liverpool. And as you can see, he's left Liverpool, gone to Milan, and then come back to Newcastle. Let's have a look at how he's done for all of those clubs. Mitch Manager actually left Liverpool not even a month after we checked in. He really took the Serie A by storm. Having a look at the past winners of the Serie A, he was there from 2042 to 2047, just losing the league once. He's won 5 Serie A titles before then moving back to Newcastle. His most important achievement though is finally winning a Champions League in the 2043-44 season with Milan. the only club in Italy to have won one in, I don't even know how many years, but if we're going back to 2010. So the only Italian club to win one in like 50 years, 40, 30 years. Coming back to his milestones, he actually departed Milan after agreeing to terms with Newcastle to head back, and in his first year at the club, he won the Europa League, which was just incredible. But it was fine because the very next year he won a Champions League again with Newcastle. And then the very next year after that, he won the Champions League again with Newcastle, defeating Bayern 2-1. And in terms of Newcastle winning the league, they haven't been able to do that while Mitch Manager has been in his second stint as the manager. He took over in the 2048-49 season where they came third. Then the next season they came third again, but it was a 1 point difference between them and the champions Man City. But what a title race this would have been. 4 teams within 2 points. Then the next year they came second by 2 points again. So some very close second and third places for Newcastle so far. So Mitch Manager has been really successful with Newcastle, Liverpool and also Milan. Let's go have a look at his brother Scott. When we checked in, he was at Fulham, but he also left like straight away as soon as we checked in and moved to Real Betis. Now, in terms of achievements that he had at Real Betis, there were none. He was there for 2 years and then he left to go to Leeds, which he was then sacked from within 1 year. So that's pretty devastating. But then he went to Benfica. So after winning the Portugal League with Benfica, he moved on to Athletic Bilbao, and he was so successful there, winning a Copa del Rey and also winning the La Liga in that year. No one had dethroned Real Madrid and Barcelona in this save at all until Athletic Bilbao. So he didn't stick around long at Athletic Bilbao, as not even a year later, he moved to Wolfsburg, where they won the UEFA Super Cup because they had just won the Europa League. Then a couple of years later, he won the DFB Pokal, which is the cup, and then entered in the English Hall of Fame as he was the Bundesliga champion, which he dethroned Bayern. If we take a look at the Bundesliga winners, only 2 other clubs had done it, and it was Karlsruhe, I don't know how to say that name, and Borussia Dortmund. So winning it with Wolfsburg in the season just gone was a very big achievement for him. Now, in terms of reputation for Scott Manager, it's taken him all of these years to get his reputation anywhere close to what his brother Mitch has. He is very reputable finally, but he still hasn't won a Champions League and still hasn't really taken like a job at a really, really top flight club. So hopefully he can do that soon. Okay, so now we've gone through both of the brothers in 2051. Let's sim to the end of their career and see how they both fared out. Okay, so we've had our first retirement of the twins. Let's go check it out. So Scott Manager retired at the ripe old age of 66, managing a wealth of clubs here. When we last checked in, he was managing Wolfsburg, and since then he managed Barcelona, Man City, England, and then Aston Villa. Let's check it out. Firstly, starting off with Wolfsburg, he left the manager role after 4 years and 330 days, so almost a 5-year spell, but after we checked in, all they did was win the DFL Super Cup once, and he didn't win any more trophies with them, because then it was on to Barcelona, where he only managed for 1 whole season, winning 32 games. The year he took over, Barcelona finished 3rd on 72 points, and his old team, Athletic Bilbao, actually did win the La Liga, so pretty disappointing in terms of his Barcelona stint. After Barcelona, it was on to Man City, where he won 2 cups, which was the Champions League, his first Champions League of his career. He won that in 2055, and then he won a FA Cup in 2056. His Champions League win was a 3-1 win over Bayern Munich, which was a pretty hectic game, I'm pretty sure. I can't click on the game, but trust me, I think it was pretty hectic. So he was the manager of Manchester City for 1 year and 351 days, just 4 days short of 2 years, because he resigned. And that is because he wanted to manage England, which he did so for 2 years and 3 days. And in those 2 years, he did 1 World Cup, where he lost in the quarterfinal to Portugal 2-1. What a ridiculous scoreline this was, with a person missing a penalty in the 80th minute and they concede in the 95th to a penalty. How crazy. After his failed attempt at winning a World Cup, Scott Manager then moved on to Aston Villa, where he was unfortunately fired after 116 days, and that was going to be the end of his managing career. Now, in terms of making it into the Hall of Fame, he only makes it into the English Managers Hall of Fame, and it's only in 8th place. As you can see, his brother is in 1st place, absolutely smashing him. But I think this just goes to show that having the reputation really did matter, especially in the early years, as Scott Manager was not really able to get out of the lower leagues as quickly as his brother Mitch. All there's left to do now is simulate to the end of Mitch Manager's career and see how he did there. I know you've seen he's at the top of the English Hall of Fame by a long way now, so he has won a lot, but I want to wait till the end of his career and you can see how good he did. Okay, so it's a complete another day now, and this video has taken me forever to do. If you could just leave a like, comment, and subscribe, that would be awesome. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let's get into the end of Mitch Manager's career. As you can see here, Mitch Manager is retiring on the 22nd of June in 2064, leaving him to be 68 years old. And you can see he's at Man United. Let's go have a look at the teams that he managed. So when we last left off, he had just won his 2nd Champions League, which is back-to-back for Newcastle. And since then, he went on an absolute rampage with Newcastle. Let's take a look. So he actually managed Newcastle until 2057. Then he went to Man United for a year and a bit. And then he went to Wolfsburg for a year. Then back to Newcastle for 2 years. Then to Monaco for a season. And then finally to Man United for one last season, and now he is retiring. So taking a look at Newcastle's dominant run under Mitch Manager, he'd won 2 Champions Leagues when we last checked in, and as you can see from this, they won 5 Premier Leagues in a row under his management, and then he left the very next season to go to Man United. So Newcastle didn't win the league. Absolutely dominant run. 5 Premier Leagues in a row is just crazy. But let's have a look at how he did in the Champions League. So in the Champions League, we left off in 2050-51 when he'd won his back-to-back. Then they actually lost, I don't know what round, in 2051, but then he won the next 2 again. So he won 4 from 5 in 5 years. So an absolutely dominant run. Let's have a look at how he did at other teams. So after Newcastle, he left to join Manchester United, and he won 84 games, and a 67% win percentage. And the only thing he won was the FIFA Club World Cup. So after Manchester United, it was on to Wolfsburg, basically following in his brother's footsteps, who also managed United and Wolfsburg. As you can see, Scott Manager was here for almost 5 years, and Mitch Manager was not even here for 1 year, not winning anything. And in that year that he did manage Wolfsburg, they finished in 6th place, so pretty disappointing for that year. After he moved on from Wolfsburg, he obviously thought that it was time to go back to his roots, which is Newcastle, where he is the best manager that they've ever had, winning 5 leagues. But the second time round was, or the third time round actually, because we can see that he actually managed them way back in 2032. His third stint was in 2060, and it wasn't as successful, only winning the Community Shield once and having a 58% win percentage. And in those 2 years, he finished 3rd with Newcastle on 78 points, and then the year after, they dropped to 4th place. So another very close title fight with 5 points separating 1st and 4th. Yeah, just couldn't get it to happen the second time around, so he thought it was time to move on again. So after Newcastle, it was on to Monaco, where he won the Uber Eats League 1 Championship, which Monaco has won like 50 times in a row or something like that. As you can see, Monaco have been absolutely dominant. And after his year with Monaco, he went back to Man United, where he tried to win the league with them again and just didn't. Noticeably, they finished in 5th place this season under his management, a whole 20 points behind his old team, Newcastle. Coming to the Hall of Fame, we can see he's in 3rd place overall, which is actually ridiculous. I know he's the best manager ever, but he started in the National League North with Darlington, and he moved his way up, winning, I don't even know how many Premier Leagues. I think it was 8, 3 with Liverpool, and then 5 with Newcastle, which is crazy. Winning a Champions League with Milan, and then 4 with Newcastle. So it's nuts. It's nuts. His resume is nuts. He won 2 Europa Leagues, winning 1 with Newcastle, 1 with Brentford. He just won pretty much every competition there is to do, and it's still not even close to Pep. So the guy in second, Martin Demichelis, he only managed River, and they won like a million Argentinian leagues. So I don't really count that. If you're asking me, I don't count him as the second best manager of all time. I would say it'd be Mitch manager after Pep, because Pep obviously won like 1 trillion or 15 Premier Leagues with Man City, which is just ridiculous. And then he went on to Arsenal after that and won a Europa League. So he is gonna be top, but Mitch manager in third, but I'm calling it second on 7,000 points is nuts. I think it's very, very clear now that 15 domestic divisions, 12 domestic cups, and 16 other club trophies is just absolutely all due to his ability to get into the high leagues earlier, which was all due to his reputation. So this experiment is now over, and it's very clear that the reputation boost that Mitch manager had at the start of his career, having a maximum reputation, helped him massively. I didn't get to see the last year of Scott manager because I was simulating through and I didn't pick it up in time, which was a rookie mistake. I don't think he would have ever gotten close to the perfect reputation that Mitch manager had. So let me know what your thoughts are down in the comments. If you have any other challenges for me to do, let me know, or any other experiments, let me know in the comments. And thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next one.